This week, we continue our look into why more Iowans are getting diagnosed with cancer at a time that fewer Americans in other states are getting that diagnosis. And why does Iowa now have the second highest rate in the country, according to the Iowa Cancer Registry at the University of Iowa? These are the questions that an Iowa legislator who is also a doctor wants to know. Hi, I'm Dave Price, and this is Inside Iowa Politics. Iowa's roots are farmland, but a new national study says that pesticides used on farmland could make Americans sick. This study first appeared in the Frontiers in Cancer Control and Society, and the study found that the region most affected by cancer is the Midwest, an area of heavy corn production. Pesticides are usually used during corn production. The authors found that the elevated use of pesticides leads to a higher risk for cancer, and the impact of pesticide exposure could potentially be about the same as smoking.
The magnitude by which cancer risk was increased by exposure to these pesticides is roughly equivalent in some cases to that tobacco use causes.
All right, so obviously in our state, where we don't have the family farms we once did, but agriculture is still a major economic component of the fabric of this state. Now what? After seeing a study like this?
Right. We need more information. You know, as a doctor, it's really important for me that I don't change my practice based on a single study, because we know through the course of time that science doesn't always get it right in the first try, the first study. And so what's going to be important is that we have follow-up studies to perhaps corroborate this evidence. But I think it's because this is starting to add to, I think, perhaps a preponderance of evidence that there may very well be some culprits here. We need to start diverting a lot of resources into that research. That hasn't been done on a state level. That hasn't been done on a federal level the way it should be. And if there's anything that we take from this, in my opinion, it's we need to wake up and really start figuring out what is behind our increased cancer rates and make sure that our environmental exposures like pesticides are one of those potential suspects that we're investigating.
Glyphosate, however you pronounce that word, you know, the chemical I'm trying to,
yes, sir.
Glyphosate. We saw, so that was in Roundup, right?
Correct.
And so for the commercial use, the kind that we would go to the store and use on our front lawn if we're trying to compete with the Joneses and make it look good, right? They have changed that following lawsuits from across the country. Now, on the agricultural side, that's still a key ingredient there, and it's very effective at killing weeds. That decision, does that tell you something, that they took it out of the residential use side?
You know, I don't know if that was out of the goodness of their own heart to save lives or to reduce their liability, their legal liability of the potential number of people who could sue them if developing cancer. The jury's still out as to whether or not glyphosate causes cancer, though there are studies that are quite concerning that it's at least linked to lymphoma. And this latest study that we just talked about also showed some signals that it may increase the risk of other cancers. So you'll see many actions by Bayer Corporation, the maker of Roundup, that is trying to reduce its legal liability right now because they've already paid over $10 billion in judgments and settling lawsuits.
And there were some efforts in the legislature this past session that had concerned some of the Democrats, and in the end, it didn't go through. What was the pushback against that?
Pushback against the legislation?
Mm-hmm.
This legislation would essentially give legal immunity to any pesticide maker. So it didn't even narrow out glyphosate. And so that in itself was far too broad. But I don't, Iowa would have been the first and only state in the country to give legal immunity to pesticide makers if sued for causing cancer. And for that to occur in a state that has the fastest rising cancer rate of any other state in the country, I can't imagine anybody would risk the political optics even voting for it.
So what stopped it?
Because I'm in the minority party, my friend, I don't know for sure what stopped it. I can tell you that I did my very best to try to raise awareness about this bill, and any bystander I talked to, just on his face, thought that this was crazy. And so I'm hoping that it stopped because there are enough reasonable folks on the other side of the aisle joining all the Democrats in opposing this. At least I presume all the Democrats opposed it. We didn't end up coming up for a vote in our House caucus, so I can't say that for sure.
A couple of weeks ago, we talked to Governor Reynolds. At first, to talk to her about her husband's cancer. He has lung cancer. Not quite sure how he got it, but it is now going to be something that he deals with, and the treatment that he gets with it will be for the rest of his life as he goes through this. I had asked her more broadly about this rising cancer rate. She said that they do not know what's behind it, that the State Department of Public Health will be looking into this. Is that enough? There was an effort, as you know, from House Democrats to try to put some state funding behind research, figure out what's going on with this, and maybe some additional research could go to University of Iowa or wherever. Are you satisfied with what the governor said, to have the Department of Public Health look into this?
If that turns out to come to fruition, yes. I think what will be important to really watch for is it looking into it in name only, or is there an actual allocation of a significant amount of money? And some of the things you can look for is, does our state hire a cancer epidemiologist or contract with a cancer epidemiologist to start doing this full-time work? That hasn't been done. I approached the Department of Health and Human Services a year ago asking for this. I asked that they put it in their budget request. I asked that from the legislature side that we give this money to the department with a line item call to do this. None of it's happened yet. It's been over a year and a half since we learned that Iowa had the second highest cancer rate in the nation, the fastest rising in the nation. Nothing's been done yet, but better late than never. And I will applaud anybody on either side of the aisle who helps carry this baton, takes on their leadership, and starts diverting significant resources to figuring this out.
So in light of this study, do behaviors, do actions, do uses, does anything have to change? Or you said more study needs to be done. Do we just wait for more study? Is there some kind of action we should take?
So we already know multiple causes of cancer, multiple risk factors that we as a state don't do a good enough job mitigating in the first place. So there's the unknown that's probably driving some of our excess cancer rates, the unknown risk factors and causes. And then there's the known causes of cancer that we could do a better job mitigating. That includes smoking, obesity, alcohol use, radon, HPV vaccinations, indoor tanning beds. I actually proposed legislation around all of those issues of known causes, of things the state can do policy-wise to try to mitigate those known risk factors. But at the same time, we need to have a parallel track to be figuring out what are the currently unknown causes of cancer we need to start mitigating as well.
Time now for the Inside Iowa Politics Final Five with Dr. Austin Babe, the state representative. Number one. Now, you don't have a Republican opponent this fall yet, correct?
That's correct.
All right. So the pressure's off you. But what do you think will be the top overall issue for this November election in our state, as you think, maybe just about the state house?
Yeah. I think the top issue in our state right now is reproductive rights for women. We saw in the last year that half of Iowa's residents no longer have the same rights they did before, nor the same rights that my grandmother did as a young woman. And that, I think, is on the top of a majority of Iowans' minds as they go to the ballot box.
All right, number two, we'll do a seat check here. How many seats, if any, will House Democrats pick up this November?
7.
Okay. Number three, the carbon pipeline. I'm going to give you a choice here, okay? Do you support this carbon sequestration pipeline, but not the use of eminent domain? Do you support it, and if it has to be, then use eminent domain, or do you not support the pipeline at all? Kind of three options.
This is tough because I want a D.
What's D?
D option is that we have a carbon pipeline without using eminent domain that is used for actual tangible reduction of carbon dioxide in our atmosphere.
And you're concerned the current proposal would not be?
I'm concerned the current proposal really only props up a few rich people in Iowa and does not actually help with our carbon, our carbon in our atmosphere and our climate crisis.
All right, number four, let's look at the odds. What is the percentage chance that you will run for governor in 2026?
0.
All right. All right. Question. So
Good
much
thing
for
my
that
wife is
one.
not listening to this. She said, is there a negative number?
Because that's what it'll be. All right. Number five, fun one here. Top choice. You're part owner of Dough Pizza Company, correct?
Doco, that's right.
Dough Co. What is your favorite topping or toppings?
Yeah. Right now, I really enjoy our taco pizza. You know, I know taco pizza is kind of a controversial one here in the state of Iowa.
It is, for sure.
You should give the Doco taco pizza a try to see what I'm talking about. I'm going to leave it right there in the mystery.
Thank you.